Good, thanks.
Y'all have a pass to go on board?
Howdy everybody, I'm Sam Pfeifle. I'm the editor of WorkBoat.com, and I have actually left the show floor at the International WorkBoat show, and I'm aboard the Sea Scout here with Jeff Sokolik. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Doing great.
Excellent.
So, Jeff, All-American Marine built this boat, the Seacraft, am I right? Sea Scout, am I right?
We built the Sea Scout. We built it up in Bellingham, Washington at our facility there. We finished it up last December and have been down here working for the last year or so out offshore.
Okay.
Does mostly seabed mapping for NOAA and the oil and gas industry. They also go and look for things every once in a while. They get lost.
That'll happen, I guess.
Yes.
So, is it home ported here in New Orleans, or where does it normally stay?
It's home ported in New Iberia. Usually it finds home in the Fouchon for the crew changes and things like that.
Okay.
They brought it around up for the workboat show specifically because of the event.
Great.
And,
Well, it
chance
gives
to
us
show
a chance to tour it. Yeah.
Yes.
So why don't you give us a tour of some of the cool spots?
Sure. We can go off and have a look around. The work deck here obviously has the main winches and the large A-frames that they use to put stuff in and out of the ocean that way. Up forward here we can look at the strut that they use for temporary equipment. Go look at the engine rooms, and then up in the survey gear and the pilot house.
Sounds good. Great. Let's get to it.
All right.
All right. So what's this we're looking at here?
This is a retractable strut that they use for temporary survey gear. They can mount equipment to it, and then the whole thing lowers down into the water till it's a couple feet below the keel in nice clean water, and they can use that to use temporary gear or to test gear. Normally a boat like this would have to get hauled out of the water to mount stuff in the hull, and this way they can do that as needed in a quick turnaround.
All right. So we're down here in the engine room. Jeff, what are we looking at?
Well, we have a C-32 Caterpillar engine that's one of the main propulsion engines. There's a second set of engines here that are the C-18s. The Sea Scout is special in that it has 4 propulsion engines, 2 large, 2 small. The idea being that the vessel's mission involves a lot of trying to get someplace in a hurry and then a lot of sitting around while the data is collected. And so with all 4 engines, the boat spools up with over 4,000 horsepower and can do almost 26 knots per regular basis. Once it gets on site, they shut down the big engines, and with the small engines, they control around at 3 to 5 knots. Very economical fuel
Gotcha.
consumption.
So yeah, I was about to ask you about fuel consumption. You know, obviously when you're working with the government, they don't like you to waste fuel. So, you know, what about the engine design, makes it fuel efficient?
Well, being able to use a small engine when that's all you need really is the key to that.
So it's the ability to switch between the two.
Correct. And bringing the appropriate size engine to the task.
Gotcha.
And so at idle, these things will push the boat at 6 knots and draining almost half a gallon per mile.
Okay. Well, let's go get some video of it.
Sure.
All right, so here we got the smaller engine right here.
The smaller engine is mounted backwards. The drivetrain points forward, goes through a Senta carbon fiber driveline into a ZF transmission that's under the floor plates there. It has a V drive that comes down to another ZF shaft brake and then on out to the propeller. And this arrangement allows us to keep it kind of outboard, leaves room for the C-32 driveline to come down inboard, and going out into the underdeck area there, the propellers work together, and we really think we get a boost out of the way they work together, pulling water from one into the input for the other, and boat turned out to be really efficient at the higher speeds.
Great, and these are both Caterpillar engines, right? The
Correct.
small and the large?
Yes.
Okay.
The generators are also Caterpillars at 170 kilowatts, and those run in parallel through the switchboard to power the vessel.
So now we're here with Chad Taylor. He's actually part of the operation of this vessel. He's with the NOAA division of C&C Technologies. So what's all this gear we're looking at here, Chad?
This gear right here is a multi-beam size scanning sonar. We use that to get a swath. I don't have any pulled up right now, but get a depth reading. And we do our CTDs here, which we drop over the side with the side A-frame and give us a sound velocity to put into our equipment so we keep it as accurate as possible. We also monitor a lot of our equipment here, F-180, for motion controls, and we also have this same screen over here, the CNAV. We can pop it up on this screen as well.
Gotcha. So with multi-beam sonar, are you taking 3D pictures of the ocean floor, and what's a sort of typical application for that? What do you need that for?
We collect the data and then we process it on this side of the lab and turn it into a 3D image, make a base surface so they can see where the contours change, and if there's any contacts like platforms or debris on the bottom, you can just make that out.
That's good. Things happen on board boats. People walk by. That's okay. You're with the NOAA division. Are you exclusively doing surveys for NOAA? Who is sort of the customer of the Sea Scout?
Our main customer is NOAA, but we do oil and gas jobs in between. Like when NOAA jobs slow down, we'll do oil and gas work with a magnetometer, sub-bottom, multi-beam, side scanning sonar. Those usually range from anywhere between 2 days to maybe a couple of weeks, depending on how large the project is.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let's see here. All right. Well, here I am in the captain's chair, I think, of the Sea Scout, probably violating some law of the ocean. But what do we got here for technology in front of us?
The system here is a Furuno setup for the most part. I have 2 Furuno radars with Furuno AIS and GPS and other instruments that way. Has a Sailor system communication suite, including a GMDSS package and a couple VHFs. Have a Simrad Robertson AP50 autopilot and running a Coastal Explorer chart plotting program. You have the engine controls, the steering, searchlights, and engine start-stop monitoring systems over there. Have a depth sounder, cameras to monitor the engine rooms and other parts of the ship, as well as controls for the parts of the scientific gear that's retractable. Stuff that goes out of the hull and back in is all controlled from here, so the captain knows its status and knows that he's dragging stuff in the water. So.
Okay, so we just saw a little bit of the galley. Now we're going to take a look at the quarters. How many people can this boat house?
We have 26 bunks. They're arranged in 12 cabins. There's 5 on the starboard side, and that's mostly for the captain and crew that way. Over here on the port side, we have the remaining ones, and that's for the survey gear and equipment guys that way. Basically the passengers, if you will, at least if you talk to the captain. Most of the cabins are 2-person, designed so that on a normal trip with less than 12 people, everybody has their own cabin. But when a special intensive work project comes up, they can double up and have the room for them.
Great. Well, we'll let people take a look at them.
I'm just here to be supportive.
It's no use, Hayden. We told him the truth.
Even though you told him not to.
We had to tell him.
Why? What happened to taking this to our graves, Mary?
All right. Well, Jeff, thanks for the tour. Really appreciate it. What's the kind of future hold for the Sea Scout? Is it just kind of business as usual, or is it going to be leaving the Gulf anytime soon? Or
my understanding is that they have a new project coming up at the beginning of the year down off the coast of Venezuela that's going to involve some undersea work there, and so they're excited about that. The rest of the time, though, they'll be back up here off the coastal Louisiana doing their usual work.
Great. Well, thanks again for the tour, and thanks to all you for watching, and we'll see you next time at WorkBoat.com.